Welcome back to Snipped Global, guys. I'm Blake Hernandez, and this is
Chris Phillips, how are you?
We're great. We're great. And we did not switch it back and forth quite yet. So we're at another early morning for me and another late night for you because we are on different sides of the world.
We are. Yeah, so
Kind of.
we have changed this time a couple of times to try to suit each other, but yeah, it's I've already gone to sleep and my alarm was meant to go off. It's 11 p.m. for me, and my alarm was meant to go off, and I woke up, saw my clock, saw a message from Blake saying, "Are you awake yet?" So it took me 10 minutes to get up, dressed, showered, ready.
But I think what's most exciting is that when we get into our upcoming events, I'll be in Australia very soon.
Yes.
And the next time we'll be in the same room at the same time. And that'll be a freaking awesome episode. I already know it. Chris and I met in Australia last year, even though we're both Pooch Perfect alumni. And we had a great time. And, I think something that Chris really stressed when we started brainstorming this project and doing this together was he was like, there's a lot of great groomers that we network with. There's a lot of smart people out there, but it's how you interact with people, it's what you bring out in them, it's how you connect with people. And I would say, the same thing. Chris and I, we just have great energies, and we, as much as like we have a passion for upgrading our lives and expanding our world, we have a genuine and sincere passion about seeing people that we care about, the people that we love, the people in our lives also achieve those things in their lives. Because I'm sorry, I would rather be around a bunch of people that are happy and successful. So as even if I'm happy and successful, I also want the people around me to experience that kind of joy and that kind of freedom. And I feel like having the right attitude and having the right support systems and just being a part of a community can really help bring you together like that. So our first and foremost in our heart and in our core, I think, is our type of people that like to educate, and we like to share information, and we like to watch people grow. But you know, I do that all the time. You do that all the time. And we thought this would be a little twist on it by having people be able to be a part of a community, be able to listen to things that will help them groom, listen to things that will help them run a business, listen to things that will help them be a better employee, but also a better family person, a better, well-rounded human. Um, and and along the way, we have this special twist where every member is basically automatically submitted for the opportunity to win a prize each month. And as the group grows, the prizes will grow. We started off with things like, a comb and a scissor and, maybe a dryer holder and things like that. And then as we build this group together and you guys tell people how great everything is here and how much you've grown and how much you love that group and it grows, the prizes will grow. I mean, in our eyes, we'll be giving away grooming tables eventually. So this is how I see what we're doing. I mean, did I miss anything, Chris?
No, you've gotten it really, really well. So, like Blake said, when we were brainstorming this, because we both teach groomers in such different ways, and what I do a lot is to do with like the business side and the personal development side. And I found that so many times I'm having the same conversation with people. They're having the same issue. So instead of just speaking one to one and fixing that issue and fixing that issue, we decided to create this so that we can be able to try to help people all over who are having the same issues, or even if you're not having the same issues, you might find something that we're doing that's able to help you advance. It doesn't necessarily matter whether you are looking to get into grooming, whether you've been grooming for 35 years, whether you're a master groomer, whether you're a home groomer, a mobile groomer, you're in a salon with 100 people. We're trying to do something that's going to fit everyone as a whole. And what you take from it, what you don't take from it's entirely up to you. But at least if we give everyone this information that's able to help them in some way, you can use the information that's important to you. And like Blake said, we do have that special prize that our goal is to give away great prizes. Like that's our ambition. That's our goal with this. So like Blake said, the more people that sign up, then the bigger the prize can come.
And that's really the key. It's sign up. So we just started, and this is now our third episode that we did just kind of decide that we will be sharing with people in order to see what we're all about. But if you're watching this and you're on our Facebook page, if you're watching this and you're on YouTube, this is one of our first 3 and free videos. Moving forward, you'll need to subscribe. And so that's a monthly payment in order to be a part of the community. And that is kind of how, in turn, we will be able to buy those better prizes to give away, because it is going to be a subscription. It is a subscription, and you know, following a page is and then getting prizes. I get that you're like, I think I'm subscribed, but you got to sign up for real to get the full videos from now on. But I mean, that's enough about that. We'll also have that kind of information on our Facebook page and website and things like that. So you guys are good for now.
So just to let everyone know what we're going to be talking about today and what we talk about most episodes, we do the product review. So every month we do a product review. We do talk about upcoming events and past events, what's coming up, what's happened in the past. We do tips with Blake Hernandaz, so anything to be able to learn to upskill your grooming styles. We do an interview. So we will interview a groomer and give you a voice to be able to say what it is that you want to say. So anyone that would be interested in doing that, please get in contact with us, because we are interested in speaking to groomers wherever we can. Help grow with today, information with myself, and then the special prize. So first thing we talk about at the moment is product review.
All right. So for me, as you can see, I'm in my candle shop and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. So I did forget my paw mat, but everyone knows paw mat, or at least has something on their table, or a coworker that has something on their table that you think, oh, okay, that's what we're talking about. So tables, obviously, initially, I'm sure the original grooming tables were either just like hand built wooden things by their husband, or a super, super slick vet table that they bought off of a closing vet. And then they just, said, okay, this is now my dog grooming table. I'm sure that dog groomers were not the first concern in the animal world. That's kind of common. But now our dog grooming tables, they are hard so that they can be cleaned. They're a hard surface so that they can be cleaned easily and sanitized easily, but they have more texture to them than, say, a veterinary exam table would have. And so with that, you have dogs that have, just old age, so they shake their rear legs, they vibrate them a lot, or just maybe a turned out paw, so they're constantly slipping on it, or they just can't place their weight very soundly on the table and just stay that way for a long time. So that's kind of why people started putting mats on their tables, right? And that probably started a long time ago, but I've been grooming for 12 years. And when I started, it was yoga mats. People would like take a yoga mat from Walmart and they would cut it in half and they'd put a yoga mat on their table. And it's almost there, guys. Like the concept is very close with the yoga mat. It makes sense. But here's some things about yoga mats. They are not waterproof. They are not antimicrobial. They are not hair splinter proof. Like, they're made to be a yoga mat, and they do a really great job of absorbing some of that weight. So it is more pleasant for the dog to stand on. But all of those things that we needed from the hard surface that we are exchanging people's dogs on was a good cleaning surface, or a sanitary surface. And that's where the paw mat comes in. So a paw mat, to you, without hearing this, is going to look like someone cut up a yoga mat and sold it to you as a paw mat. It's not this glamorous looking thing, but it is made of a material that is a little soft and can take on damage from like sharp nails and things like that. But the whole purpose and intent behind making that paw mat is that the material is made of a material that is naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial, it's waterproof, it's hair resistant. It has all of these qualities that a groomer needs in it. And so it is, even if you get a scratch in it, and it's not going to allow bacteria to grow in that scratch. It is not going to, if you put it in your tub so that the dog's feet don't sink through, the little grates or something like that, it's not going to absorb water and then allow bacteria to grow inside of it. Um, so paw mats are very simple, but they hit the mark. They are something that a groomer can take. They can dunk it into something to sanitize. They can let it dry, and then they have a nice, comfortable surface that is also made of the right, materials that we really need to run like a safe sanitary environment. So I do not, again, I don't have one with me right now. They come in a lot of different sizes, but I always just get the standard size. And but I mean, they've done everything. They've made sandals. They've made yoga mats. They've made different products over the years, and with their products, it always has that one thing in mind, which is that they are antimicrobial, antibacterial, and just a really easy thing to clean and feel comfortable using in your professional environment. So I would say that I'm a big fan of paw mats, and they are a USA brand, but they are carried by many distributors. So definitely doesn't matter what country you're in, check out how you can get your hands on a paw mat. Well, I actually, this is the first time I've showed up in a hoodie for this, and it's because I got it at the Ottawa, Ontario grooming show.
Oh,
So that's what I was
awesome.
that's what I was just at. Well, actually, oh my God, this month has been insane because I started off the month with New Zealand, and then I ended up in Canada and then Mexico. And somehow in between there, I went to Pennsylvania at some point as well. So I've had just like an absolutely nuts month, but I think that the best thing that has been about it for me, not that the everyday groomer needs to know all of the ins and outs and details, but being able to grow in every way that I can and to be able to be a part of this grooming industry and feel like I put value into it, it has been so awesome to see different. I mean, it's very simple from what you heard, just different countries, different cultures, and how those grooming salons work. Probably the most interesting to me, not the most interesting, but just something that's like anecdotal for you all, is that the Spanish countries, like the Latin countries, not just Mexico, but like those countries, they have very strong like masculine and feminine roles, and you can tell by their language that it's like that. And um they consider grooming like a manual labor and like dirty job, and so it's a male driven career in the Spanish countries, which is just so different for us because
Yeah.
everywhere, I mean, and I could be completely wrong on this. I don't think I am, or I wouldn't be saying it. But from what I remember when I became a groomer, because I did learn how to groom online out of a book. So when I became a groomer, I remember seeing that the first like recorded official like professional name for a dog groomer was a demoiselle, which you can tell by the phrase, like the sentence, the word, that it was a feminine. It was a feminine career from the get, when it was first recorded. And in the Spanish countries, though, masculine, feminine, cleaning dog butts and shaving dog buttholes, that's dirty work. That's not for the girls. And they would do it that way. You would see a bunch of men. So when I had the seminar there was like 150 people in this room, and I would say it was like half and half. It was
Wow.
50% men and 50% women. And I just taught a seminar, you know, 2 days ago in a state in America, and there was over 50 groomers, and only three of them were men. So like, just to show the difference, 150 groomers, 75 of them were men, 75 of them were women. Another seminar in America, 50 groomers, only three of them were men. So that was crazy in and of itself. But then I went to go judge the competition, and the ring was predominantly men. So there were
Mm.
more men competing than there were women. And that, I mean, it was just interesting. Something that I noticed when I was in Australia was that so many salons work as a team. Like that's the norm for them to be like, hey, like this dog comes in and then like it needs two people to dry it. And hey, we're running behind. We need someone to come do the face while Becky does the feet. Like it's not, I'm not saying it's never like that in America, but American salons are very much like, this is my client and I'm gonna do it from start to finish. And like, I'm done with my dogs for the day, so I'm leaving and like leaving behind whoever's working there. So it's just different communities and seeing how they work. And it's just been really, it's been awesome for me because you're not a good teacher unless you're learning. And like for me, it's been a way to expand my grooming knowledge without, just cutting hair. I've been able to be a part of these like different communities. And so I've had a great month, but it was New Zealand was groomers, which has it may have a different name next year. I don't know if that's really official, but it will be back next year and I will be a part of that event as well. So I will be going back to New Zealand next year. And then Canada, Ottawa, Ontario Grooming Show. That was also sorry. That was also a second year show, and they announced that they will be coming back for next, their third year, and I will be there for that as well. And then the Groom Week was the name of the event in Mexico City in Mexico. And that was the 10th year for that event. So I would imagine that surely they'll be back again next year. So it was a great month, but as always, we're busy and moving on to the next thing. So from past events going into new events, the new event is me in Australia. We'll be, I have a seminar in uh Newcastle and Canberra and then up by you. And I mean I keep saying Brisbane because that's the airport I'm flying
The
into.
capital.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But and then in Townsville. And really the only reason I'm truly going to Townsville is because I'll be much closer to the Great Barrier Reef. So I can go
Yes.
see the Great Barrier Reef. So yeah, that's upcoming events for me.
It's actually, I'm surprised you're not going to Sydney and Melbourne. So you're going to Newcastle and Canberra, which are both smaller cities outside of capital cities. And same with me. So I'm Sunshine Coast, not Brisbane.
Right.
But it was funny when Blake was coming to Australia and he wanted to go to the Great Barrier Reef, and he's like, "Hey, can I do a seminar with you guys so I can go to the Great Barrier Reef?" And we said, "Yeah, you can, but we're like, even though we're in the same state as the Great Barrier Reef, we're like 14-hour drive. So our states are like, Australia's the same size as America, just we've got 5 states. Not how many have you got? 52?
We have 50. We have literally 10 times as many. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's just smaller states. So like our
Yeah.
state, you can drive for like 16 hours and still be in the same state.
Yeah. So now I'll do Brisbane and then and drop a fly up to
Yeah.
Townsville. But it was, it's been a fun. I love Australia. I do. Like when people talk to me about my travel schedule and when they talk to me about, what I do and the places I've been, for me, there are plenty of countries that I would go back to as a tourist or as, to do some work. But I feel like if I were to move anywhere, it would be Australia. I love Australia. And it is. It's very American, and maybe that's why I love it. It's like American without the American politics. And that's about all I'm going to say about that.
So, so like, there's so many things that I want to touch on quickly. When you went to New Zealand, the dog trainer.
uh Yeah.
So she was actually a coaching client of mine. So she was doing dog sitting and not enjoying what she was doing. It wasn't filling her cup. So then we spoke about it and what she actually wanted to do, and she told me what she wanted to do. And then like she wasn't sure how to start it. So we were able to create her process to be able to start that. Now she's traveling internationally doing her dog behavior training.
Yeah,
Which is
that's really cool.
amazing.
Yeah, I did get to meet her. The name slips my mind, but she was a little shorter, cute little blonde haircut.
Jade.
Yeah,
Yeah, so her
yeah,
partner's a dog groomer. So Shayla's taught her partner dog grooming, and then just in conversations with her, then we started doing the stuff to be able to start her stuff up. With American and just like Australia being like America, I've always been told Australia is like America was 30 years in the past. So we're really behind. Our internet's almost still like dial-up internet. Like we just live in the past of everything, except for politics. And that's another thing that I've always heard about America and Australia. America's very strong with the politics, whether you like this person or this person, and like you like that one or you like this one. Australia, no one cares. All politicians lie. No
yeah.
Australian knows who's in charge of our country because it doesn't matter whether it's this person or this
Well,
person. They were going to lie
because
to
you
get
guys
there in
are
the
still
first
a
place.
part of. you guys are still a part of the Commonwealth or whatever. Like
Yeah,
you're like I remember, and so that was something that I learned because I was like, I remember it must have been because 4th of July was coming up or something, and I said, um, something to the effect of like, what is like the equivalent of like your guys' Independence Day? Like what would it? And they were like, we don't have one. We're still controlled by the it's not
we
here yet. And I
it
go,
comes
oh,
up in
okay.
conversation every now and then for us to separate from it, but it hasn't happened.
Yeah, you're like, it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, so I do like that. I like that little fact about Australia. And it's not the only country that is like, yeah, politics. I wish that people were a little more chill. Honestly, like in America, people like turn off their, they turn off uh their settings
TV.
on their social media and things like that. Yeah, yeah. So, but
Yeah, no.
anyway. Yeah.
But upcoming events in the start of December, there's Groom South. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Groom South
Oh,
is
yeah. Sorry.
so it's an interesting show because it was originally like the very first time it was done down in Florida, and it was like the first show that was like specifically made to be like bilinguals, like servicing the bilingual community, and so it had like Spanish speaking seminars and English speaking seminars. It was an interesting twist on things, what they were trying to do, but the show moved. So now it was in New Jersey last time, which is very far from Florida, and so they just called it Groom South, New Jersey, which was an interesting twist on the name. It's owned by a man named Chuck Simmons. He's also the owner of the Groomers Helper, and so yeah, the it's a yeah, I had a great experience with their tools, and the guy is he has quite a large business. He's gotten the Groomers Helper into PetSmarts and Petco's and things like that, so he's very involved in the grooming industry, but it is his only show, and the only thing that is about it that is very different from other shows is that the competition ring is only open to master level groomers. So they don't have like a lower level class or an entry level class. They just do the open level, like which is masters for us. So they do open level, and that is just to basically contribute to the groom team points here. So our groom team sanctioning, they have to run their open level contest a certain way in order to keep their sanctioning. So when they moved the show, they dropped everything except for the open level the way that it was so that they wouldn't lose their sanctioning. So it's got a little bit of a weird history in case you care about the competition stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a trade show. So you'll have education and you'll have people on the floor and doing demos and vendors and, another trade show.
Amazing. I don't talk about Australian grooming competitions very much. We usually talk about what's coming up in events in America, but I have got one coming up, which unfortunately is this weekend. So it's actually going to be in the past by the time this airs, which is Groom Mania, which is actually run by two people I personally know, which is Sue Wright and James Bennett. And they
Yeah.
run Groom Mania together. We've actually got a couple of American judges coming over for it again this year. But I've got a few of my girls in my team who are actually going to compete, which usually where our girls go and compete at that competition.
Is it the one that Gabriel is judging at?
Yes,
Okay.
Gabriel and another gentleman, but I can't think of his name.
Okay, so his name is Logan, but he's not coming as a judge, I don't think. I think
Oh,
Logan's
isn't he?
coming as No, I think Logan's coming as a speaker because Logan works for Gabriel now. So they're both, I mean, Gabriel had a, totally normal, regular like industry come up in terms of like he showed dogs, he started doing grooming competitions, he did freestyle trims, he did breed trims, he placed up
Yes.
into the open class. So he has a very standard history that way. But then we did Pooch Perfect together and he got really into creative grooming after that. Like so he loves doing creative grooming now, so he does a lot of that. And then Logan was actually Logan is a very like you've probably seen him on social media. He has a very like large following on his Instagram and on his TikTok. But funny story, a little funny history about Logan is that I was hired to come teach at a salon, like a private seminar at a salon, and Logan was 14 years old bathing dogs, and that was his first seminar. And he saw what I was doing, and he was like, "I want to do that." And now this kid is out there. He's, that's and he wasn't
Amazing.
like an official student. He was just at the play, but it was just funny because at 14 he looks just like Logan, but very round. Like I have a picture somewhere where he's got his very round baby face, and it's funny watching the people that we get to watch grow. Again, I would much rather be around happy, successful people. Gabriel, when I lived in San Diego, my shop was 5 doors down from Gabriel's, so we have been professionally, good in good graces for many years now. So. All right. So next we're going to talk about tips. And so when we talk about these episodes, we think, how can what I'm saying in some way relate to what you're saying? Because even though you're going to be talking about tips on life and business, I'll be talking about tips on grooming. But, you know, I feel like everything I teach is also a little bit of a life lesson. Like when I teach people how to scissor better, I'm like, are you the type of person that sweeps things under the rugs, or do you pull everything out of the room and clean the room the right way? Like that's my life lesson, while I also tell you to comb out all the shit and let me cut it off so it's fixed for real. So everything I do is a little bit of a life lesson. But for me, the tip that I would like to go over is, and I know that some of you guys watching this are gonna be like, "Dub, like, of course," like, but everyone is in a different place in their grooming journey, and so maybe all that talk about stretching coat and prepping coat and heat and tension and all that in previous episodes flew over the head of someone who's really new, and then maybe this is something that you've known for a while. But I digress. We groom a lot of dogs. You just can't help it, right? I mean, even if you're not like a 5 day a week, 10 dog a day groomer, doing 3 dogs a day, 4 days a week is still 12 dogs a week. That's still 48 dogs a month. That's a lot of dogs. And when you do something 50 times in a month, or you do something 100 times in a month, you are bound to forget things. It's not intentional. It's not because you did a bad job. It's because it's the same reason why you can't remember if you locked your door. You leave your house every day, you lock your door every day, you're driving away 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you're like, did I lock the door? I don't know, because you do it every day. So when you try to think about it, you're like, yeah, I locked it, because you can remember seeing your hand twist and lock it. But that could have been yesterday. You don't know because you do it every day. And that's what is happening with grooming. You do all of these things on all of these dogs every single day. And that is why you have woken up at 11 o'clock at night, not to do a Zoom meeting with me, but because you were like this. You go, did I cut that dog's nails? Like you don't remember. You don't remember if you did it, and you try as you might, but you can't remember. And that is why I want to talk about order of operations. Yes, order of operations. Order of operations is what it sounds like. You want to do your grooming process in the same order every time, because it will create efficiency. You'll realize, when I'm scissoring feet, for instance, I use straight scissors and curved scissors. So when I pick up my straight scissor and I go to do that stuff that I do with it, I will do it on all 4 feet before I pick up my curved scissor and start shaping them. And the reason why is because if I scissor the part with my straight scissor and then put it down, grab my curved scissor, now comb it the way I need to comb it to do the curved scissor, and then I put it down, and then I put the dog's foot down, and I wipe off the table, and then I move to the next foot, and then I start over. Comb down, get my straight scissor, and then what have I done? I've wasted so much time because I didn't just keep the tool in my hand that I was using. So that is where you will start creating efficiency if you do the same like routine every single groom every single day. So for me, there is a correct way to do it in some places. So when you're cutting nails, for instance, there's a lot of people that like to cut nails maybe first thing, and other people who like to cut nails last thing. And I think that if I had to choose between those two, I would do it first. Because if you quick a dog's nail and you already told the owner to pick up in 10 minutes, like you got 10 minutes to make sure it's completely stopped. And like for me, that's just not worth it. So I would do it at the beginning of groom so I have the whole time to address that if it happened. But ideally, the ideal time for me to do nails is between the first and the second bath because they are in the bathtub, which means that they probably haven't had their nails cut in the bathtub before, because not a lot of groomers do it that way. So if they're a dog that's really difficult for nails on the table, they're usually better in the bathtub because they're wet. They're thinking about something else. They're thinking about the dryer coming. They're thinking about a million other things. They're not just on a table fighting you about their nails. So that's number one reason why I like it. But another reason is because the water on the first bath and the first rinse will act as a way to soften the keratin of the nail so that when you go to cut it, it doesn't pinch the nerves inside. It will slice through the nail keratin a lot easier. So if you were to wash the dog and then dry the dog, that keratin is going to firm back up. So that's why you don't want to do it on a dry dog if you don't have to. Do the first bath, rinse them off, slice that softened keratin, and then let's say you quicked a dog during this process. Because you're in the bath and because you're going to wash it another time, you can just reduce the temperature to as cold as is humanely tolerable to the dog, and that cool water running over an exposed quick, it will act in a way to constrict those blood vessels naturally, and the pressure of the water on the outside of the pressure of the blood helps keep the blood in the nail for a longer amount of, like, it'll constrict the blood flow. It'll also have reverse pressure so that it helps keep the blood in. And then when you get the dog out of the bath, you can styptic powder if it's still going, but a lot of times it's not. A lot of times, as long as you haven't hacked off the dogs quick, that cool water will do enough. And then I'm not sending home dogs with a yellow foot, all caked in powder, trying to like get it to absorb this blood. So that's why there are times in a grooming process where I do believe that there is a correct order of operations, that you have to do it that way in order to result in the most consistent efficiency in your salon. But then there's other things that it just really doesn't, like when I start grooming a dog, I will always I'll do their back first, and then I'll do their front, and then or their rear, or I'll do their rear and then their front, and then I do their feet. And the reason why is because I want to see what frame my dog is sitting in. I want my brain to be able to start digesting my overall dimensions of the dog. So I always do it top, back, front, bottom. But I don't care if you do. If you want to do the feet first and then the top and then the front and then the back, I don't care because it doesn't really matter. The point is that you need to get your dog into that frame, right? So, yes, there are times where it matters, other times not so much, but it needs to be comfortable for you and you need to just keep it up and keep consistency, because that's how, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, did I clean out that dog's ears? Did I shave out that pad? You are going to be like, yes, I did, because I always do that right when I'm done drying the dog or whatever the case is. So you are going to become a better, faster groomer if you just get a plan, you get a routine, and you stick to it. And if you stick to it long enough, you'll start finding ways to become more efficient. And then you can change it for efficiency. But yeah, that's my tip is, guys, you got to just write a routine. And I used to do that when I started grooming, especially grooming competitions. I would like write the order of operations, and then after I was done writing the order of operations, I would just kind of tell myself, this should take 5 minutes. This should take 7 minutes. This should take 2 minutes. This should take 10 minutes. So that I also had a grip on like where I should be by a certain point. It wasn't because someone said, oh, Blake, you need to have this dog groomed in an hour and a half. It was because I looked at the things I needed to accomplish and I said, that shouldn't take me more than 5 minutes. That shouldn't take me more than 2 minutes, and figured out how fast and efficient I could do this job. So, maybe try that. I did it.
I love that. And when you started saying about it, because it's something that my wife pushes all the time when she's training, it's if you're doing a leg, don't finish that leg, don't move on to another leg until that leg's done. And like you were saying, with time efficiency, you'll waste more time by snipping this leg, then going back to this leg, then back to that leg again, then doing something there, whether it's in the bathing, the drying, or the grooming. Like when you're drying a leg, like we dry that leg until that leg's dried, then move on to the next leg and make sure that leg's dry, instead of like a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And it makes it so much more time efficient.
And just, I mean, another little tip for everyone listening, just what you said there, it reminds me like when I see a dog that's wet and like freshly out of the bath, I think that's a waste of time. I would let a dog absorb in a towel for 5 minutes before I even
Mhm.
like, I would hold them, I would put them in a kennel, but like the towel will do so much work if you just let it for like 5 minutes. But also, like when I see people put a wet dog on a table and start drying their feet, I'm like, okay, you get them 100% dry, but like, gravity is going to work against you the whole time. Gravity is going to be trying to get down to those feet again for like, and then you're, why are you doing that? When you scissor dogs' legs, they drop parallel lines from their muscle groups, right? Like 95% of dogs, that's how it's going to look, is just this leg dropping off of that muscle group. So then why are you going to do a half-ass job clipping the body and then start scissoring the legs? Because any work you do on the legs is pointless because you still have to establish your muscle groups because they aren't cleanly done. So yeah, there are things where I'm like, yes, it is wrong. To me, it is wrong to start doing your legs before you are completely done with your body because your legs have to drop from your body. So how are you going to get any effective work done if that isn't done? So there are times where it's right. And then there are other things where I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to do the legs before you do your feet, because that's like what you want to do, like go ahead. That's fine. I'm not going to fight you on it. I personally like having a visual of where I'm ending. But if you don't need that and you want to scissor your leg, go ahead. So not everything in grooming is like you have to do it that way. And that's actually more often the case. But whatever the cycle, whatever the routine, you just got to stick to it. It'll make you better. It'll make you faster. We have Nathan Austin here, and Nathan Austin, I've said it more heartfelt recently, but even before then, a brother from another mother. We both are California groomers. We both love poodles, and we both learned from the same person. So she's like our fairy groom mother at the very least, Ann Martin.
Yeah.
So we talk the same language, we see the same thing in dogs, and so it's nice sharing a stage with you for the first time in a
Yeah, it
judging
was great.
capacity. Yeah, so we were in New Zealand, which we loved, but I mean, why don't you tell people about your journey a little bit?
My journey?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I got into grooming, years ago, too long ago, 17 years ago now. But then I was working with Ann Martin. She was teaching me. And I asked her, after I master certified, I asked her, well, how can I keep progressing? And she said, well, start competing. And that's what I did, started competing and dove head first into that world. And got a couple big placements, a best in show under my belt, and that's where I'm at now.
That's where you're at now.
I,
So
just
we
in
got
the trenches.
yeah, right. So I don't know, like for me, I got into competing because I'm a competitive person. Like I always
Oh, yeah.
did competitive sports growing up. Were you competitive growing up?
So I was very competitive growing up, but I didn't get into it until once I got my first win, then I was like, oh shit, this is the best ever. So
So
like at the beginning, it was just to kind of grow. But then as soon as I got that first placement, I was like, oh shit, I want this.
So that's funny because I did rescue as my very first competition and I didn't place. Not that I don't think anyone should go into rescue thinking like they're for sure gonna place because
Oh yeah.
it's such a weird division. But I just remember being like, I know I can do better than this, and I felt really embarrassed that the judge saw me groom that way. Like that's so it was actually the
Uh,
lack of placing and the lack of doing well that made me go, well, now I have to come back so that I can show these people I can groom, I promise. So it was a little reverse for me, but
so now you've gone into the trenches, you're still going at it, and but you know, if you want to compete, you can't judge at the same shows that you compete at, but you can
Yeah.
judge in other places. So you were asked to judge at Groom Wars, which was in New Zealand,
Yeah.
with me and your wife. But how was that judging for your first time?
I came out of it. First of all, I was super grateful to be asked to do something like that. It was completely out of left field and it was an amazing experience. But I think most importantly for me, I left with a new found respect for the judges because it was hard. Just that one time, like I felt like I was crushing people's like souls, you know? It was so hard. So to do that every weekend and go from show to show and you know, people are pouring their heart and souls into it and and to not like pick them, you know, could it was hard. So I have a newfound respect for them for the judges. And it was nice to have you know, a view from the other side too. And it was I'm also glad you were there because um we leaned a lot on you, right? Because you're experienced in judging. So it was nice to have someone there that I could like trust and like work with like that. But I think overall, it's just the insight into judging that it gave me, I think is the my like favorite piece I got from it.
I would say that well, I mean, I appreciate what you said positively about me, of course, but I would say that I agree that the most, I don't know, like that I took away, but that was like it felt good was you always assume that you know what the judges are talking about and like you can get your critiques with them and maybe even make further inference of like what they were thinking compared to other dogs. But there's nothing like being like in the conversation where it's like you know exactly how that judge felt about that thing.
My very first like placement I gave, or my very first, the person I gave a place or I didn't give a placement to when I was critiquing them, they just told me to my face that I'm wrong. Like, no,
Yeah.
you're wrong, I'm right. Not to say like who, I'm not gonna say who it was or anything, but that was really humbling.
Yes, I do
I was
remember
like,
that.
what do
I
I
will
say to
remember
that, you know?
I'll remember that for you just because like I've yet to have it happen like that. I've had someone cry afterward.
Uh,
I've had people like not say anything to me and then go and say something to other people. So I mean I've had bad experiences, but not bad experiences, but I've had less than amazing experiences on time from time to time, which is expected when so many emotions are involved. So I get that, but not someone just being like, you're wrong, which I thought
you,
was very
you
funny.
know, though,
Um,
give it to them. They're ballsy, you know?
but yeah. No, I remember by the end of the show, I was like, I like his spirit. Like he was a fun person at the show, but yeah, he was a little ballsy. And then finally with that, I have felt the way that you felt. Definitely when you have like four people in a class and you have to like leave one of the people out of placements, like
Yeah.
that's not fun. But I had the hardest class I've ever judged officially. Like I remember it now that it's happened to me, and it was in Canada, and it was the poodle class, and they were just there was like five or six dogs that were all like equal.
Uh,
Like it wasn't even like first place stood out so much. It was like five dogs that were all so close. Like they all had such, and it was so hard. I mean, I went back two, three times, and then I finally went and grabbed Victor, and I was like, you know, because it is nice having a judge there that you can count on. Judge, you know,
yeah.
Victor's more experienced than me, and so I was like, please tell me what you think. I cannot make
Yeah.
up my mind on these like to make third place. I was really struggling to finally put third. So, but judging got to take you to New Zealand, and now even since then you went to Poland.
Oh yeah.
But that was
And
just a class. So how would tell us about that?
it was well, it was amazing. That was my first time in Europe. So it was
Oh, okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's my second time out of the country, first time in Europe. And the people there are so nice. Um, a couple people are like, I can't believe you're coming here. Like you would come here. And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course, I'm gonna come wherever people want me to come, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really great because there was people there from other countries too. Germany, there was people there from Norway, there was someone there from
Well,
the
that's the nice thing about Europe is that their countries are like our states. So they just
yeah.
jump
But
over.
on the way home, so when they dropped us off at the airport, the people that had us there were incredible too. They're two of the nicest people. Um, I'm gonna not say her name right, but Gosha, and her husband's name is Martine, and she would be like Martine, say it all like really cute because he was like helping her out all weekend. But they dropped us off at 4 in the morning, and we didn't get home until it was 6 in the morning their time. So it took a whole 24 hours, more than 24 hours.
Was it a lot of connections or?
No, there was one connection, but out of Germany, we suddenly stopped over the North Sea and the plane, we could tell it was turning, and they got over the intercom and said that they have to dump all the fuel and to look out the window. So we look out the window and there's fuel just spraying out of the wing. And they had to dump all the fuel and go back and land because there was a mysterious issue they didn't want to tell us about.
That's
But
all scary.
so we're texting the kids like, "We love you," just in case. And then we went back and landed, and then 4 hours later, we got on another flight back home. So it's nice to be
Wow.
back home. But it was definitely really cool to be in another place and see their perspective and
Always. That's
be in a new
that's what I've
place.
taken away from this year as a whole. Is
Yeah.
just being. It's been such a humbling experience going to so many different countries and just being
Yeah.
like different shops, different dogs, different norms. So
And I will say the groomers in Poland are very educated. They like know what they're doing.
nice.
And it was cool to step in a castle or two. Like I think we went to like 4 castles, and each one was like more amazing than the next, you know?
Yeah.
They had a
The
playground.
Europe has plenty of castles.
Yeah. They had playgrounds. There are castles on a hill, and at the bottom of the hill, there's just kids' playgrounds.
Huh?
And so their kids
That's
just
cool.
play in under a castle all day.
Nice. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
Yeah,
See
I remember.
you.
Bye.
All right, well, enough about grooming stuff and our interview with Nathan. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but now we've got Chris. How are you gonna help us out, man?
So today I wanted to do something different. So I've spoken a little bit about personal growth, and today I want to talk about numbers. Because honestly, with businesses and things like that, we need to understand all of this. There is so many different aspects of understanding your numbers of your business, and it can be very overwhelming if you're not really understanding how to do it properly. What I'm going to try to talk about today is a little bit about your average spend per customer. Okay, so when we're grooming, if you're doing, for example, if you're doing 10 dogs in a day, and your salon's bringing in $1,000 a day, then your average spend per customer is $100 per customer. Okay. To know your average spend per customer, what you do is you take how much your grooming salon's bringing in daily, divided by the amount of dogs. Now, this is extremely important to know how much your customers are spending, okay? And to know how much to expect your salon to come in, because if your average spend per customer, usually it should be roughly about the same most days if you get it in. So if you've got 7 customers coming in, or if you've got 14 customers coming in, you should be able to predict how much money your business should be bringing in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So once you start to understand your average spend per customer, then you can start to look at, like, if you're knowing how much your outgoings are, so your bills and wages and all of those sorts of things. And then if your numbers aren't matching, if you realize that you're starting to spend more money than what you need to be, you can then, well, I mean, there's 2 ways to be able to bring more money into the business. You can either work harder and groom more dogs, or you can lift your average spend per customer up. And there's endless ways to be able to do this. And I won't touch on those sorts of ways at the moment, but I mean, you can You can upsell, you can cross-sell, you can have retail in the front of your shop. Like anything your customer buys from your shop with the grooming is 100% profit after cost, which means they're already in to spend money, and you can get them to buy something. If that item cost you $5 and you can sell it for 10, then that's $5 profit after cost because they were already in your business to buy something. You haven't had to bring that customer into your salon. The reason why it's important to know and understand your numbers is because if you are struggling for any reason, if a lot of people don't know the numbers of their business, like it goes off to a bookkeeper or they try to do it themselves, but they're usually a few months behind. If your salon is having a bad month and your book work isn't done for 3 months, 6 months, you won't know that you were struggling until 3 months or 6 months later. And at that stage, it's too late to actually do anything about it. So if you can work out your average spend per customer and know what your daily targets are before the day starts, then you can actually address those issues or understand what you need to do before they become an issue. Now, just to let everyone understand what we do, now when we set this up, we had a lot of people laughing at us and saying that it's dog groomers don't need this, but we absolutely love it. It's my wife especially because she really enjoys this sort of stuff. So we've got a team of about 20, and we have dashboards. So we can actually individually see live every groomer, how many dogs they're doing, what their average spend per customer is, what upsells and cross-sells they're doing. And so my wife could actually go onto her phone and see every salon and every staff member on what they're doing. And the reason why this is important to us is because we might have a stylist who normally does this figure, and all of a sudden they start dropping down. And if they start dropping down, it might mean either they're working too hard, something in their social life's going wrong. Like there's endless ways, but at least we can see there's an issue right now, and we can address the issue, and we can go and pull her aside and have a talk. Like maybe she might be having difficulty with a partner, or there's so many different things, but then we can help resolve that because we can see it live, because we can see the numbers. If your book work isn't coming down for 6 months, and your book work might only show what the salon's doing, not what every individual groomer's doing, then in 3 months' time, you might be like, hey, this salon, like, it's down $300 a day compared to what it usually makes. Why is that? But it was 3 months ago. So it's really, really hard to address that issue. Whereas because we can see every different staff member, we can pull them aside. Like I said, we can pull them aside and work out what's going on. It might be a work thing, it might be a personal thing, but at least we can address that issue there and then to be able to resolve it so that we're not having to fix an issue 3 months later down the track.
Yeah, there's something that I learned a long time ago with numbers, and it's human nature. And it is, if you want numbers to improve, you must look at them. That's the rule. No, it sounds silly, but I mean, I've even watched it happen with myself. Like, I can have every good intention with my business and my movement forward, but have that, when you have like things aren't as busy and you don't want to look at the bank account, like you don't want to see those numbers, so you don't. You look at it closer to payday. You look at it after the big party comes in, or whatever. But when you look at numbers every single day, that means that you're thinking about how to improve them every single day. And that's why looking at your numbers is so important, because when you don't get on the scale, you get bigger. But when you get on the scale every day, you're gonna be more aware of that number. So you gotta monitor what you want to improve.
Exactly. And do you want me to talk a little bit about like an upsell at all at the moment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to use one as an example, and this is a really, really touchy subject for groomers, which is anal glands or squeeze please. So because not everyone's allowed to do a squeeze please or anal glands. So
Yeah.
there is obviously different rules around it. And if like your state or anything like that doesn't allow it, then I completely understand. But what I've found is a lot of places say that it has to be done by a vet. And very rarely do I actually find a vet clinic that the vets do the anal glands. It's usually by a vet nurse. No.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And and I've spoken before about perception of value. The customer's perception of value. If you don't do anal glands, then the customer then has to take another whole half day off, go to a vet clinic to be able to get the anal glands done, sit around in the waiting room, and they have to pay money for it. So if you're able to learn how to do anal glands properly, then you can then save them a whole half a day out. If you're seeing 10 dogs a day on average, and you offer all of them anal glands, now find out in your local area how much anal glands cost. Mine are about $40. Most anal vets charge about $40. So I charge the same as my vets. I don't have to be cheaper than the vets because I'm actually saving my customers time by not having to go to the vet. So I'm the same price as the vets are. So I'm $40 for anal glands. If you're offering that to 10 customers a day, let's say 3 of them go, oh yeah, like I do need my anal glands done. And you inspect them. If they don't need to be done, I don't charge for them. If they're extremely swollen, then I don't do them. I do recommend going to a vet. I'll never do anything that I don't feel comfortable doing. But if you can do 3 anal glands to the 10 customers, then that's $120 you've just made extra for the day without grooming any more dogs. And honestly, kind of like Blake was saying with the nails, you put them in the bath, you check the anal glands, you express them, then you bath the dog. The dog smells amazing afterwards. It's had the anal glands done. And it's honestly taken you like 30 seconds to make an extra $40. So you do that 3 times, that's $120 without grooming any extra dogs. And that's another way to be able to understand your numbers, is because if you can upsell a customer, and I'm just using that as an example, like honestly, if you guys can think of other ways to be able to upsell customers, we have like probably 30 different ways, our salons. But that's a way to be able to improve your numbers. And if you can look, if you know your average spend per customer and go, I'm not going to make enough today, I need to really focus on telling every customer that I also offer this or offer this or offer this, all of a sudden you've gone from making a $750 day to a $1,000 day, and you haven't groomed any more dogs. And you haven't ripped off any customers because you've given them something they need.
Yeah. I mean, so I obviously, I still groomer at heart and by trade, but I don't have a grooming salon. I don't work in a grooming salon currently. So I work as a grooming instructor. And then I have this candle business. And when I opened this candle business and I did all the research, I saw that every candle maker was doing cost of goods times 3 or cost of goods times 4 in order to run their business and run it effectively and have some growth or whatever. But I didn't want to work in this business myself. I'm too busy outside of it. So when I set my prices here, I did cost of goods times 5. So I don't really need to get into detail about it, but the point is that I still did everything on my end to find the prettiest vessels at the best rate. I learned where, I go to LA all the time to fly out. So I found a wholesale distributor in that area. So I don't have to pay for shipping. I can just swing by and get them while I'm in the area. I've done everything in my power to make it an affordable experience as it is. But once I found out the cost of goods, I had to do cost of goods times 5 because I didn't have time to be in this business. So I couldn't run it exactly like the candle maker next to me who did cost of goods times 3, or the candle maker on the other side of town that does cost of goods times 4, because they're able to put their own time equity into it that I don't have. So my every sale has to reflect a little bit more percentage wise in order for those numbers to work for me. Now that's just one thing about knowing my numbers that I would like to relate to. But also when I opened this place, it was just a candle shop. And when my boyfriend, who has been buying and selling books for many years, when we moved here, he obviously started working a little bit in the shop, and we were like, we have thousands of books at home, and we have like a huge storage space in the back. No one's going to come for the books. We get that. We're known for our candles. We're known for our experience. We get it. But when we have a party that's larger than 12 people, like we have to rotate them onto the bar. They're talking with each other, they're hanging out, but like now they have a bookstore to go hang out in. So like and I'm not great about it. I'm not great about pushing the books when I'm here, but obviously my partner, they're his. So like he's really great about pushing the books on every single person. And so almost every single person that came in to make candles, who came in to make fun experience, see that thing that they heard about, had no clue that there was a bookstore here. They leave with books. And so, yeah, it's a way to, it's all profit, right? And with us, it almost is, because we get book donations from the community. So it truly is a great little twist that we have here. But yeah, I mean, you gotta capitalize on your square footage. That's another thing about business, is that you have to, when you're buying retail, you got to look at it and you got to say, okay, it's taking up, look at how much space. This is what you need to do. You look up how much space each groomer takes up. The table and their workstation and the space between it. That space is 5 feet by 5 feet. Let's just say that they're 5 feet by 5 feet. Okay, what does 5 feet by 5 feet make your salon every month? Then that is how much every square foot of your salon should be making. So if you get retail and it's going to take up 1 square foot of a table in your front lobby area, what is 1 square foot supposed to make you per month? If that retail item cannot make you the same rate in which your groomers can, then it's not worth it. Okay, it's not utilizing your space appropriately. And just before I get, I feel like I'm like talking about your subject, Chris, but I will just say that with groomers, with retail, I have learned that like retail can be great in a grooming situation, but it has to be grooming, it has to be retail stuff that the groomers care about. And what do I mean? I mean that I've worked at a churn and burn shop where they shave down a bunch of matted dogs all the time. And they sold a bunch of retail. Do you know what it was? It was sweaters. They would shave down your dog and they'd be like, you need a sweater. They'd shave it down another dog. You need a sweater. And they would sell so many sweaters. I never had seen so many sweaters be purchased in a shop ever before in my life. And they did it all the time. They could move it because they cared about it. They thought to themselves, if my dog was shaved down, I would want it in a sweater. That was that person's state of mind. So when they shaved down a dog, it was the first thing they thought of. Hey, you need a sweater, right? And they would buy a sweater. I worked for a breeder who obviously cares a lot about nutrition and all of that, with breeding dogs. So does dog food have a great profit margin? No, it doesn't. But the point is that they would sell so much dog food. Like so many of her clients relied on her opinion on what dog food to buy. So they had so much dog food and it moved all the time. So, don't just think, oh, you know what, this retail I can get for a good price and I can sell it for a good price. But if you don't actually care about it, if you don't care about what it is going to offer your clients, if you don't use it yourself, if you don't think it's neat yourself, it's just going to sit there and collect dust because no one's pointing it out to the customer and saying, hey, you really need to try this thing. So, yeah, definitely once people walk through your door, you have to maximize those numbers.
100% you do. And there's a couple of things that you said which was interesting, because you said dog food doesn't have a high profit margin. But if you're able to push dog food, trust me, selling a low profit margin over not selling a thing that's high profit margin that just sits on your shelf for a year is better. So if you've got stuff that's sitting around that's not selling, it's taking up floor space that could be selling. It could just be relocating it to a different spot. Maybe it's in a spot that people don't notice. Maybe it's a spot that you don't notice. If you change it to a location that's in front of you, all of a sudden you can start saying to people, oh, by the way, we've got this item that's been sitting on your shelf for 12 months, all of a sudden might sell like crazy because it's now in your front of mind. And like Blake said, if you just make a small comment, the sweaters, if you just make a small comment, it's amazing how fast that stuff can go. Another thing, I don't know how much time I've got to talk about this because we've already spoken about like knowing your numbers for quite a bit. It's a comment that Blake had said earlier that Australian grooming salons run differently to American because everyone runs as a team, whereas in America, it's sort of more just your table. But what I find so often in employees, what they're looking for, not necessarily the employers, but people want 50% of what they do. And understanding your numbers, if you go around to salons saying, I want 50% of what I get, and you're getting all the salons that are charging very little and doing like very little for their grooms virtually. And They say, yes, you can have 50%. And if you're an amazing groomer and you get a job at a high-end salon that offers you 30%, I have shown so many people that you can make more money making 30% at a high-end salon than you can making 50% at a low-end salon. And there's two sides to this. One is the high-end salon, you're probably not going to be doing as many dogs as the cheaper salon. You're going to make more money, not burn out, and the salon is actually going to be more profitable. And this matters to you because it's going to be open for the long run. So many of the salons that are doing 50%, they're usually open for 2 or 3 years. And then I'm having conversations with people, with the owners, they're struggling because all of a sudden paying everyone 50%, they're not making enough to be able to pay their outgoings. Because 50% is going to each groomer. So they're actually paying their groomers less money than the high-end salons who are paying 30%, and everybody's struggling financially. And that's another thing with knowing your numbers is if you know how much is meant to be coming in, how much is meant to be going out. So in Australia, the hourly rate is roughly about 30% sales to salary. So if that groomer makes $100, we pay them about $33 on average. That's what you like to get it. And that's not grooming salons. That's actually virtually every business in existence. Every employee should be making about 30% of how much they make you. And that way, 30% goes to the staff member, 30% goes to the bills, 30% goes to and that covers everything.
Yeah. So what I would say on this is that if you're an employer and you are hiring or doing interviews, then what a really good way to do this is you don't tell them how much you guys charge. And when you get to the point about pay rate and they say they want 50% or they say they want 60%, they say they want 45%, don't tell them anything next. You just say, okay, well, can you please tell me what you normally charge for your miniature schnauzers? And when they tell you that they the salon that I've been working at for this long charges $60 for miniature schnauzers or whatever. And then you ask them, well, how long does it take you to do that schnauzer? And they say an hour. Okay. Well, then you're going to make $30, right? So then you say, okay, well, how about this? We're going to book you a miniature schnauzer and we're going to give you an hour and a half because our clients, they need a better finish. They need you to take your time. But we're going to actually charge them $115 because that's our rate. So can you please go ahead and figure out what 30% of 115 is? And that's when they find out that, oh, that's actually, that's like $37. So, so not only is your pay rate a little bit, and this is what you're telling them as their future employer, you're saying, so not only are you making $7 more for that haircut, but now your client is tipping on a $115 bill, not a $60 bill. At least in America, we get tips a lot. Maybe not so much in Australia, but still, the point is that people do tip, and they tip based on a percentage based on the ticket number. So if you're working at a chop shop that you get 10 dogs done in a day and you walk out with $300 when you're done, but you've only been tipped on $600 of commission, maybe you only made $60. 10% of your commission is pretty normal. So if you walked out of the salon that day with $300 in commission, but you did $900 worth of service, then you're going to be getting tipped on $90 worth of service, and that'll be closer to, or sorry, $900 worth of service, so that'll be closer to $90 tip. So yeah, that's how I would explain it to them. But then on the flip side, for you groomers out there that are looking for a salon to work at, and you're looking and you want to know how you set yourself up for landing in the right salon, you need to ask them. You say, well, I don't really care what my commission rate is. I just need to be making X amount of dollars in an hour. So if I did a miniature schnauzer from start to finish and it took me an hour on the table or an hour, with the dog or whatever your speed is, then how much would I make in that time? And that's so no matter what, that's how you're going to go at it. As an employer, that's how you're going to sell them on it. And as an employee, that's how you're going to stand your ground and say, I don't care what you charge even. I just need to make this much per hour. So my percentage needs to work out based on whatever your pay rates are, like your price rates are. Yeah. But yeah, that's a lot of number talk.
Yeah, no, definitely got carried away a little bit there. But Like, and sorry, just really, I'll be really, really quick with this, but that's sort of the difference with the hourly rate to the percentage. Is the percentage, if you're paying people a percentage, they're going to focus on what's in front of them, not what's going on around them. On the hourly rate, if you're able to pay people on an hourly rate, then they're there to help each other. If one person's having time with a difficult dog, then the other person's going to get paid still to come over and sort of help assist them rather than going, well, I don't get paid for your dog, so I'm just going to keep doing my dogs.
So now we
Okay.
get to announce what our prize is, which actually, before we talk about what the prize is for this month, you need to tell us who won the prize for last month.
We do. So the last month was The Scissors by Shayla Knight.
Yeah, yeah.
And the winner for the scissors is Amber Spruce from Oregon.
Sweet. And I love how you say that because when I was like, she's in Oregon. He goes, Oregon? Yeah, we have 50 states. So do not slight you for not knowing one of them. Many Americans don't know all 50 states, but congratulations, Amber Spruce. And honestly, I've been using, remember I told you I cleaned my salon and I found Shayla's scissor that you guys gave me literally last year. So I've been using it. It's packed for Australia. I'll have it while I'm in Australia too. So it is a great scissor. I like that I like scissors that have, a slender enough profile so that you can get a nice finish, but a slender enough sideways shot, if you look at the blade sideways, but if you look at the blade from the flat side, it's nice and broad, which typically has more capability of working through thicker coats. So yeah, I've been super happy with it. So lucky Amber. And maybe, it would be very lucky if Amber won again, but with next month's prize, what we are giving away is a Zoom lesson with me. So it can be anything. You can groom a dog for me, like you can groom a face and we'll go over it. Or maybe you're struggling with tails or bracelets or anything. You can do anything, but you can groom. Or I don't have exactly like the largest selection, but I can also groom for you during that time. If you want to see me do a top knot, if you want to see me do bracelets, and be able to feel comfortable asking all those questions just one-on-one, that is how you will use that time. Why is it 45 minutes? Because it is a free gift, and my sessions are normally an hour. Instead, we're going to use 15 minutes of that hour to talk. So once you win, you and I will have a little conversation, and we'll figure out what we want to do on that lesson, what date we can do it on, and then once you win, whoever that winner may be, we will utilize that time however is best. So it's 45-minute long Zoom meeting, but you'll also get a 15-minute call for a grand total of 1 hour at $120 an hour, free to you. So
amazing. And the tips with you, like I actually still use a tip that you showed me a year ago. There was a seminar that Blake was doing in Australia, and I actually had a kid's birthday party, so I turned up to the seminar late, and I'm glad I turned up when I did because the tip you shown for the Bichon crest.
Oh, to lean the head back.
Oh my God. I use that so often. And when I said to Shayla, she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one. I remember I like it. There's, I teach so much that is one of those tricks that I teach that I'm always excited to teach because it almost always results in an audible gasp in the room. Like you're like, you tilt the head back, you do it, and then you put it forward, and then the whole class goes, and so,
I 100% made that noise.
Yeah, so I do love that. Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, great.
Like Blake said, so anyone that wants to go into the draw to win his prize, you do have to subscribe. If you go to www.sniptedglobal.com and subscribe through there, you will be in the draw to win an hour with Blake or 45 minutes training with Blake.
Yeah, and I think that now that we've gotten these initial episodes up, and we're gonna really start kind of showing people what the program is about and to sign them up, I think that we can start venturing into getting some everyday groomer, some social media groomer, someone that's watching who's been watching these videos. Can you reach out to us? We'd like to interview you. I honestly, I want to interview you about what you've been watching, what you like about the show, what you like about the program. So, obviously sign up, but reach out, send us a message and say, hey, I'd like to be interviewed. I think it'd be fun because it's gonna be fun.
It is, yeah. And I mean, everyone has a voice, everyone has a story that they have to tell. So, like, if you want to tell your story, I mean, you might be able to help other people who are thinking similar things that you've gone through. And yeah,
All right. Well, I got to go finish packing, so I'll see you in a few days.
thank I
But
look forward to it. Safe travels.
to all of our viewers, that's another month on Snip Global, and can't wait to see you again next month.